Hello, all you wonderful SGDQ game selection people. My name is Yellow Killer Bee, and this is Mickey Mania for Super Nintendo, the Japanese version. I did play Mickey Mania a couple years ago at SGDQ, but that was English, and this is Japanese, and there are some version differences, including a really incredible zip, which has completely changed how the speedrun works. So, without further ado, we'll get started. So, this game doesn't really have a story. It's more just a compilation of all of like the first 5 Mickey movies. This game gets started off with the tricks fairly quickly. We're going to do a quick setup here, and basically what's happening there is we're skipping the rest of the level. It's one of the most interesting things about this speed game because we've had different Tazers look into it. My good friend Author Blues looked into it, and he had said it was kind of one of the most unique things that he'd ever found on a Super Nintendo game. But what's happening there is that we are causing the game to have too many sprites on the screen at once. So we're kind of doing a combination of things. It's raining and there's a cat and we're jumping on the cat, and then we're starting this little mini cutscene kind of all at the same time. And what that does is it causes too many sprites to be on the screen. And when that happens in a lot of games. But every game handles it a bit differently. Usually what happens is that maybe they'll unload some sprites, so an enemy will disappear or something like that. But for this game, what they do is they just pop up a screen that says level warp forward and backward, and the forward and backward kind of flickers back and forth really fast so that if you're not ready, you don't know if you'll get forward or backward. It allows you to just skip the rest of the level. So we found 3 of these in this game, and they're like one of the main speedrunning components, but it's just really interesting how the developers chose to put that in, because it's intended, but it's not specifically triggered by any one thing. It's just an overload of sprites, so it really could happen at any time. Alright, so this is the first zip. Zips are JP only, and as far as I know, they are also SNES only. I don't think that they're a Genesis thing. So basically what I'm trying to do is jump on that rope and press jump again on the same frame that I'm grabbing the rope. I don't know for sure that it's a 1-frame trick, but it sure feels like it. I don't know. It's a very precise trick, and you're gonna get to see it again very soon. That was the second level warp. As you can see, that one's simple enough that you just throw a marble. Sometimes this game moves so quickly, it's really hard to even get everything in. This one I find much more challenging. Oh, we got it first try. Nice, okay. So yeah, and the zips are interesting because the rope is swinging and you're jumping on the rope, and it kind of all depends on the angle. So if you grab the rope at the wrong angle, even if you get the zip, you might die because you go off the top of the screen, or you go down off the bottom of the screen. And so it's like, it's not guaranteed, even if you get that within that frame window, that you will get a successful zip. Sometimes you get launched to the end of the level and you have to exit the level normally. Sometimes you just get far enough off the right of the screen that the level just ends automatically. So those are the 2 main zips in the JP version. I got them fairly quickly on this video, but as you could see from the first one, if you don't get it, you can just try it as many times as you want to. So it is a fairly marathon safe trick, and it's something that I'd want to go for until I got it, just because it is such a cool trick. Like, zips aren't just for Mega Man games anymore. Mickey can zip too. So now we are going to construct a bomb, which is very apropos for Mickey. He's very violent. Look at that. Look at that face. Such a violent Mickey face. So yeah, we're just basically putting these harmful chemicals and heating them up here. So this boss coming up is one of the main RNG elements of this game. Basically, there's a couple different patterns he can throw out, and some of the patterns are easier to dodge than others. We want to hit him 8 times and get out of here as quickly as possible. So let's see how we do. We're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that was pretty good. You want to try to keep him as much in stasis as possible by hitting him as soon as his iframes are done. So that wasn't perfect, but it was decent. We'll take it, as they say. So this level was one of the levels that a lot of times people couldn't get past. It's a fairly annoying level because of these branches that fall down. As you can see, I already got squished by one, but they take a fairly specific left-right motion, which the SNES controller doesn't always love. Luckily, you can see the branches at the top of the screen, so you at least know when they're falling. But at the same time, it's like doing this left-right doesn't always work the way that you want to. And then there's Moose that comes too. Let's not forget him. So yeah, this is based on the movie The Moose Hunter, in which Mickey hunts a moose. I don't know. At this point, these movies still all came out before I was born. So the only one that I saw when I was a kid was Mickey and the Beanstalk. Or the first one I saw when I was a kid, rather. So this is a nice example of mode 7, where we have Mickey running away from the moose and eating some apples. I don't know. I think it's funny how, like, Mickey and his apples and his marbles are all kind of, like, connected in these games, whether there be something that you're collecting to go faster or something that you're throwing. Kind of ties the games together, even though, like, this game is very, very different than Castle of Illusion, which is the other game I'm submitting. Personally, I think this game's graphics are so gorgeous, and the animations are so good, and the music is so good. It's just a very unique game. And then the fact that they decided to re-release it on PlayStation, like, I feel like that really serves to say that its developers thought that it had more longevity than just the Genesis or the Super Nintendo could provide. So here we're going to do an intended jump here. This is something that we found out we could do as a kid, and the main reason we're doing that is because we fill up our health. In this game, health is consistent throughout the entire game. You never get a health refill just for beating a level. It's pretty much, if you get more health, then your health meter will fill up. If you don't, then it never will. So you can see the health on the upper left there. It's actually the fingers on that Mickey glove. We're taking some, like, intentional damage here in order to go more quickly up these ramps. And you'll see the ramps are kind of falling. There's nothing you can really do to prevent that. But if you jump on certain stairs, you can make them fall more quickly, or sometimes you can even get up to the top of them, and then that saves a little bit of time. Now we're going to do a tricky little bit of platforming here, especially at the top. You can go quickly enough that you skip a cycle if you do this quick enough. Oh, we just missed it. Alright, it's going to be a little bit of time loss. Play it safe this time. Alright, and then there's our roll-up ghost friends. Alright, timing's really tight there. It's almost as if they intend for you to get hit. And then this section, we're heading through the ghost house and into this barrel rolling section. It's like one of 2 levels in this game where you start off going left. So if you're a perpetual hold righter like me, this level tends to mess me up because I'll just, like, be mindlessly holding right, and then all of a sudden you have to go left. Alright, So this part used to cause a lot of issues, but then in the routing we kind of figured out it just makes more sense to skip it and just take damage. So what you're supposed to be doing is pushing this table because you have to use it to climb up at the end. Then these ghosts appear and throw their hats at you like the jerks they are. And we discovered or decided basically in the routing, it just takes so long to avoid those ghosts that it's better just to skip it. Take the damage. A lot of routing this game was just deciding where to take damage and where not to. And that was one of the more obvious spots. And so you might notice at the end of some of the levels there's some Mickeys waiting for you. What you're doing is you're like rescuing the Mickey from each movie level, which is disconcerting because you're kind of rescuing yourself. You're a self-rescuer. These seeds have a specific pattern, which isn't too bad. Oh gosh. I spoke too soon! Until you forget how to jump. It's not too bad, but it still can be kind of scary when you have 0 health like I do right now. If I get hit even once, then I'll be dead. So we're growing this flower, and then up here is one of the most difficult tricks in the game, I would say. See if we can get it here. Okay, looks like a pretty good setup. So we're supposed to be riding across on these lily pads, but instead we use that first dragonfly to just bounce across the first part of it. And it saves quite a bit of time. And to get it first try is really nice because it's very strange. Like the dragonfly loads in at strange times. So like you have to just pause for a certain length of time, and that length of time is completely determined by where you're standing. So there's like different setups where people will like stand at different points and then they have to wait longer or less long. It's pretty much ridiculous. So here you can take damage. One of the interesting things about the Japanese version is that there's this part down here where this ladybug, you get to ride this ladybug that's coming up here. It's pretty scary. If you're scared of spiders, look away. Oh my gosh. And then the spider chases you and you ride this ladybug and you like run by all these health pickups. In the US version, you just, like there's no way to get them. If you jump off the ladybug, the spider catches you. In the Japanese version, it picks them all up automatically. So it's actually another time-saving point of the Japanese version because it allows you to take more damage in later levels and therefore go a little bit faster. Because you basically come out of here with full life, full health, while in the other, in the English version, you're kind of low on health at this point. This is my favorite level. It's my favorite level because you get to hold right the whole time. I already kind of confessed that I was a hold righter. So if done correctly, you never have to stop holding right the entire time. And there's just something about levels that have a very smooth flow to them and just are very satisfying when played correctly. Also, this has Mickey actually popping out of the cork out of the bottle at the end. That's also only on Japanese. And Pluto's actually thrown in a couple times on the Japanese where he wasn't in the other one. So that's, I don't know, it's just interesting because you would figure that the Japanese version would have came out first, and so it would have less things in it, but instead it has more, so I'm not entirely sure why that is. So the dreaded chandelier section. I've gotten much better at the chandeliers, but it killed many a run at the beginning. Alright, so this section can be a little bit terrible, I guess. Like, you're gonna take damage, but there's like some very small variations that can cause you to take more or less damage. So actually I didn't take much damage at all. I have a good amount of health for this section. I also like that you can shoot the guys with daggers and walk right through them, and then you get to see their underwear somehow. So that's really interesting. Just another one of like really unique animations that are just weird and quirky. You know, it's like everybody loves Mario games, and I mean I do too. I run a lot of Mario games, but like Disney games, especially Disney games of this era, like the Super Nintendo Genesis era, just have like so much personality of their own, and they kind of have their own little thing going. Alright, so coming up to this level, this is the last, well, I don't know if it's the last trick of the game, but this is a fairly challenging timing-based trick. We're going to use the momentum of this water going up and down to try to jump extremely early up to that platform, and we got it. There's a visual cue for that, but it's still hit or miss. So because we have extra health, we can do a little optimization here where we're jumping off early. And he shot at me, but he missed, so that was good. So we're taking intentional damage there, and then we can do this without taking damage, but oh, we got it, good. That one's a really very tight jump. Okay. And then also here, like these are always the same as far as the timing. That doesn't make them any easier to avoid, to be honest. And then this section, doing this section without taking damage is extremely difficult. Even I thought I had made it through, and then that guy threw a dagger up at the end and just clipped me a little bit. So it's nice to come into there with extra health, but even if you don't, the deaths in this game, while a death will kill your speedrun if you haven't optimized time at all, it doesn't really kill a marathon run because it only wastes like 7 seconds. Which 7 seconds in this game is a lot, but for a marathon it's not too bad. Alright, so we saved Mickey again. And now we have to go fight Pete. And of course, to do that, first we have to have the traditional tower climb sequence with fire, complete with fire, coming up from beneath you, which you haven't seen yet and you probably won't see. Alright, so we're going to have to dodge a lot of these barrels. Whether you can dodge the barrels or not has, or whether you can just ignore them has a lot to do with how much health you have again. But we only have 1 health. So that means we actually are going to try to dodge every barrel. Although we didn't dodge that one, so now we're kind of in a precarious spot. We can still do all of the strats at the end, but there's a chance it makes this next level a little bit more difficult. We'll just put it that way. I was gonna say we'll just play this extra safe, but we got caught up there. That's alright. A death there is a little bit unfortunate because you have to go back to the beginning. It's not the best place to die. If you die in earlier levels, you basically, like, usually you'll come back right where you stopped because there's a checkpointing system. There's these little rockets, and the rockets are funny because, like, they're checkpoints, but you don't come back at the rocket point where you've, like, tripped the rocket and made it, you know, blast off, and then you think, oh, that's where my checkpoint is. But it's not. The checkpoint is, like, once you get the rocket, then you will automatically come back wherever you die from that point forward. Well, obviously, this level doesn't have a checkpoint because it's, like, a time-based tower climb level, so it would be really hard to, like, drop you in the middle of this somewhere. So you can see there I have extra health, so I'm just, like, ignoring those barrels, and it's a lot faster than trying to avoid them and dying. But yeah, basically we're past the barrels, and we're headed on to the second to last level, which has the last level warp in it also, which is a lot easier to do if you have 1 health. It's possible to do it without getting hit, but it's a lot more difficult. So the interesting thing about this level, when I was a kid, I did it without killing any enemies because the video game had trained me that all of these enemies took 3 hits to kill. But they knew that this level would be too hard if everyone took 3 hits to kill, so they changed it. Okay, I did it without taking damage anyway. Oh, I missed the level warp. Oh well. That doesn't happen very often. So yeah, if you miss the level warp, there's actually one more... This guy. There's actually one more zip that you can do, because you can see there's these chains. Anytime there's a swinging rope, you can do a zip, which makes warpless for this pretty interesting. And actually, I suppose I could submit a warpless run, because that would definitely be something different. Okay, we're gonna try not to die here. Play safe. Oh no! Okay, well, we get to try the level warp again. The end of this run kind of fell apart, but I'm still probably going to submit this one just because the commentary was fairly good, and will give you a good idea of kind of how the commentary would or could go in the run. And I suppose you never know when a run's going to fall apart at a GDQ either. You try not to let it. And try not to game over at a GDQ. So you can probably read a donation or 2 or 3. All right, we're gonna try to get the level warp. Oh, okay, it didn't work again. Well. Well, I guess they patched it. This end part can be like pretty tricky because there's like so many guys just throwing. There we go. That's a speed strat for the end of there because you kind of have to land and throw at the same time. And then we're on to Pete. And Pete is, well, he's an auto-scroller. There's a few auto-scrollers in this game that you can't make go any faster, like the Moose level in general. You know, it's pretty much the length that it is. But to have the end boss be an auto-scroller, I guess it's like not that uncommon, but it is tedious. In fact, this auto-scroller is so long, it's over 10% of the entire game that you're spending on the final boss. But it's not very difficult, especially this first section. There's like the ninja throwing stars that are falling from the ceiling. I like to imagine there's actual ninjas up there that are throwing the stars down. And they're just pretty much throwing, they've got the amateur ninjas throwing them right now. And they're just throwing them straight down at me, and that makes it very easy to avoid all these attacks. Then in the second round, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Like, the pattern is always the same. It's not RNG. So, it's still not that difficult, but it becomes a little bit harder because the patterns get more difficult to avoid. As you can see, they start getting fancy and throwing them down at an angle. The ninjas are getting frustrated, and they're like, send in the pro ninjas, the experienced ones. So yeah, basically we were going to hit Pete 6 times with this wrecking ball, which, why there's a wrecking ball in his castle is a matter of debate. There's speculation because in the Genesis version, which is overall a more polished version of the game, like there's an additional level in the Genesis version. There's actually 2 additional levels, which then carries over to the PlayStation version also. And in this fight scene, Pete has a beautiful tall window in the background. And so there's a theory that this is pre-window and he just has the wrecking ball here just for that purpose of putting that window in, but it's just hasn't gotten around to it yet. Then he meets his demise. So yeah, that's Mickey Mania. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed playing it. I hope you'll consider this game. It's a beautiful game. It really is. It has great animations. It's actually one of the first games that was worked on by Disney animators, and I think that really shines through. Hitboxes might not be so great, but it really shines through in how it appeals and how its animations, you know, of the enemies and Mickey show off. So thank you so much for watching this. Thank you again for your consideration of this game, and I hope to see you at SGDQ.